still headwind conditions here, so the time won't be quick, but it's not about time. It's about being first across the line in just under 2,000 meters from now. And moving pretty smartly into their rhythm there, the Romanians.
France up there as well. Romania, early leaders, but Italy there in lane 2, just out of the picture. Italy and Romania, the early leaders. Great Britain, as expected, just a little bit slow off the start. Back there with France.
And I suspect, Dan, that the Romanians think that their best chance is to go out quickly and probably try and hold on if they can.
Australian men's Cox's 4, the Oarsome Foursome. Training camp in Canada, 5 leaders overseas in the 6 Olympic Games. This crew, who the nucleus have been together since late 1989 and through 5 international campaigns with 4 titles, 2 world and 2 Olympic championships, have prided themselves in trying to be the most efficient, skillful and coordinated crew in their level of competition. As you see them rowing here, the 6-stroke technique is aimed at trying to progressively work on sequences forward to create a position, a strong position but long position forward, to be able to get an effective drive with the main emphasis of progressive acceleration through the stroke. You'll note even in the water there you can see small discrepancies of their technique. James Tompkins, 2 metres tall, doesn't have much trouble at all rowing quite long and effective length. He's often been used as a model in technical videos. The tall man, very skillful. Notice the position of the inside elbow being quite low at the finish of the stroke, enabling the handle to stay high at the finish of the stroke. Notice after that release position, the hands go past the knees before coming forward. You see the other side view of Nicholas Green. Again, important to notice the mechanical position of the elbow to the wrist. The flat basic movement enabling the handle also to stay high and therefore the blade held in the water. Coordination of the power drive is one piece, although the main emphasis is on the leg drive early, and you'll see here Nick using the body quite well in the second half of the stroke. And the body sitting behind with the shoulders behind the hips, and the hand of the cane go away and set up the forward sequence, the same as James, with the hands move past the knees before he comes forward. Michael Mccain, very strong oarsman, a great deal of pride about being able to get an maximum amount of work done in each stroke. You'll see here almost an over-exaggeration of the height of the draw and the length of the handle coming to the body, and sometimes even the outside hand releasing off the oar handle. When reminded of it, he's able to go back and make sure the outside hand guides the handle path. Again, also you'll note the position of the inside shoulder and elbow at the finish, allowing that outside hand to keep the blade quite high. Here again, a young member of the crew who's developed his skills magnificently, to prove that all young athletes have that capability. This has only taken the last 18 months or so through a campaign in the Australian 8 and with the Oarsome Foursome, and the need for him to fit into the fluent, efficient style of the crew. Again, probably the thing to note is the efficiency that he has, the smoothness and the coordination. The relaxation is very evident in his fluent movement. Slow paddling down here shows the ability for him to work his sequences forward smoothly and to end up balanced on his feet. This slow paddling is a good technical drill the crew have used on many occasions over the years to practice the sequences. Getting behind the crew, of course, all crews would like to aim to make sure that their blade work and their timing sequences are accurate. You'll see here in the main, this movement is quite symmetrical and is basically in time. Small discrepancies occur with the squaring and the featherings of the blade, but these are only small discrepancies and need to be worked on and tidied up. The view from behind, you're obviously aiming to ensure here that the bodies work up and down the midline of the boat. you'll see some minor variation to this symmetrical movement up and down the middle of the boat and around the rigger. We move now to the bowside blades. Quite good movement here in the bowside blades in all aspects of their timing and movement. Stroke side, you can see the small discrepancies in the squaring, with the two-man squaring slightly before the stroke, but perhaps squared a little bit too late. Minor alteration to both athletes would see from probably a row the blades in together.
Timing.
You can note also the basic pathways where the handle would tap the blade and it would carry just off the water, enabling sufficient room for the blade to come down to the water. I call this a three-quarter shot, which we often do to try and make sure that we can see and trace the pathway of the body, that they come up the middle of the boat but slightly towards the river. A closer view shows this, particularly with the two-man being able to stretch out but stay on the feet right around the rigger before applying power. The movement of the outside elbows is evident, but even down to the bowman you can see here from a distance away that the blades are carried quite high through to the finish of the stroke. The side shot shows the basic rhythm of the crew by watching the bodies move together symmetrically. The nice sitting position with the shoulders behind the hip at the finish and the transfer of weight onto the feet and fluently moving forward. The individual slow motion shots, as you see now, emphasise again this fluent and efficient movement forward that enables the athletes to row forward with rhythm and to place the weight onto the feet so that they can then push back, with the handle path being quite a straight line once the blade has been buried in the water, enabling the boat to sit fairly truly in the water and eliminate the boat from going up and down and forward, which hopefully will take them to the line a bit faster. This is a repeat shot of Nick Green. You'll notice perhaps he doesn't quite get the same length and extension over the knees as you saw James Tompkins in the stroke seat. However, sufficient enough to make sure that the hands clear the knees before allowing the knees to gently rise to take the pressure off the lower back and the gluteals and the hamstrings, enabling him to be able to increase the length from this position there and forward. Often Nick has had a skill error of not being able to maintain the stability of the shoulders, but here, to his credit, you'll see the stability of the shoulders through practice in training over the last 2 months. Michael Mccain, not quite as tall in stature as the other three members of the crew, and therefore to row as long, and in most occasions even longer than the others here, has very good feel for extending the outside shoulder to a given point while staying on the feet and able to use that long lever with the hanging off the handle principle whilst pushing the legs. You'll see from here forward, from the bottom of the latissimus dorsi to the top of the deltoid, Michael getting very, very good extension while staying on the feet. The taller athletes, such as Drew, if we follow through on the same point there, doesn't need to have the same extension to row the same arc length. So therefore he can be in a slightly more compact position and with the shins vertical push the handle again in that nice straight line. These slow motion video shots are a recommended form of teaching and working on technique movements associated with each and every crew member, and are encouraged to be performed quite regularly in training. You'll possibly notice here a slight difference in the timing of the blades on the stroke side, evidenced by perhaps a rhythm failure in some of the racing that the crew undertook around about this time of their Olympic preparation, which actually then resulted in a slight seating change with the two-man Michael Mccain taking up the stroke seat and James Tompkins moving to two. This move, as you'll see, the faster moving hands away from the two-man enabled the crew to gain increased rhythm with that extra movement off the back turn, allowing more time on the slide. A very positive change made to the crew members that they took to hand and worked on their skill movements together for the benefit of the crew and the harmony of the ease of the skill movements. Looking from above again, we can basically see the blade square down and catch the water, with the aim being just a blade full of blade in the water, not up the shaft. Although you can see the stroke of the crew taking a small amount of water up the shaft of the crew. The aim is basically for the blade to be in the water and then for the leg drive to commence the moment the blade has been set in the water. You can see this more clearly with the close-up shot. And again, emphasising here perhaps the overbearing with rising the outside hand too much and having a little bit of shoulder lift movement from the stroke seat. This was actually rectified when we made the seating change, because James then had the opportunity of following the athletes in front of him and row more flat lines. But in the end he was able to row a very nice blade full and get a more effective push off the feet. The hold on the water and the extractions of the blade are quite clean. On the bow side here, we can also focus in on the timings, both at the catch, with the bottom tip of the blade into the water at the same time, with minimal amounts of the blade coming back towards the stern of the boat and being able to take hold of the water. The finishes in time together with a medium-sized tap around the finish of the stroke to make sure the cleaver blade clears the water. As we pick up the Olympic Games final in Atlanta midway through the third 500, you'll see the Oarsome Foursome in the foreground in lane 6 rowing quite efficiently, quite long and fluent strokes. This was needed to be done in the middle of the race. Race tactics play an important part of any final competition. And in the Olympic Games final, the Oarsome Foursome aimed to come out fairly quickly, but to stay with the field, but to work on a lot of middle distance race rhythm to enable them to have every chance to be near the lead through 1500. You'll see as they do cross just in front through 1500 that they had achieved the middle part of the race rhythm that was required. As the crew now starts to sprint towards the line, there's two important factors that need to be considered. That as the stroke rating increases, the stroke length must be maintained and the work in the water must increase with the sense of urgency of what the final part of the race is all about. Here the Oarsome Foursome are gradually moving away and the bowman coolly and calmly calling 250 metres to go to let this coxless boat know what had to be achieved in the last part of the race. The high rate that's achieved now and the long strokes with plenty of work each stroke has enabled them to take a clear lead, a lead that they were able to maintain even though some other fast finishing crews started to come towards them. Here the technique is still holding up sufficiently well and the timing is basically sufficient to ensure that they are going to get to the line first. An exciting race, but a race tactic associated with very good skills that enabled the Oarsome Foursome to come towards the line in Atlanta here, crossing the line in first place and win back-to-back gold medals.
A great feat for Australian rowing and these four great oarsmen. They were coached by Noel Donaldson.